A very good afternoon, everyone. I am Kadvi Rana from Logistics Insider, and I welcome you all to yet another exciting LinkedIn Live talk show on the theme Entering the New Era of Sustainable Logistics. Today's show is powered by Jeena and Company, a 120-year young end-to-end logistics service provider offering bespoke services in freight forwarding, air and sea freight services, custom clearance, export-import services, time and temperature sensitive supply chain management, and many more. Logistics, an industry that is fundamental to the development of countries and economies, is an area of high potential cost savings, improved customer satisfaction, and competitive effectiveness. However, it is also the area that often generates several aggressions to the environment. Today, cognizance of this is more important than ever, especially in high impact sectors such as the retail supply chain. However, for retailers, responsible retailing can no longer be viewed as an expensive inconvenience. Aimed at lowering the ecological footprint of its processes, such as CO2 emission, noise pollution, and accidents, sustainable logistics is a series of measures to be adopted by logistics sector to reduce environmental impact, both in the short and long term. But how can one ensure feasible sustainable logistics operations in the supply chain? To delve into this very interesting subject, today we have a distinguished panel of experts who will be speaking about the many facets of sustainability in logistics and supply chain. We are hopeful that today's session will awaken the collective consciousness of the industry and push it towards achieving a more carbon neutral and greener operation. Now, without any further ado, let's welcome our experts for today. First up, please welcome Dr. Anil Chinovandar, a visionary and strategist. Dr. Chinnabhandar is currently working as the Senior VP, Retail Planning and Supply Chain at Landmark Group, specialized in manufacturing, omni-retail planning and supply chain management. In his previous assignments, Dr. Chinnabhandar worked with several global and Indian conglomerates. Welcome to the show, sir. Next up, please welcome Mr. Arne Bockentin, Trade Lane Manager, Indian Subcontinent for Hermes, Germany. Throughout his career, Mr. Arne served in various departments such as ocean fleet, air fleet, and customs. In his previous roles, he worked all across the globe in companies like DHL and MSC, which helped him expand his commercial experience and gained valuable knowledge. We are pleased to have you here with us today, Mr. Arne. Next, let's welcome Mr. Sanjeev Kapoor, Head of Sales and Handling, Northern, Eastern, and Southern India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Pakistan for Lufthansa Cargo. He is a long-standing veteran of Lufthansa Cargo in Delhi and a highly experienced professional in cargo handling and freighter aircraft operations. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Finally, I would like to welcome Mr. Prediman Koul, Executive Director and Board Member, Jeena and Company. With over 24 years of working experience in the logistics industry, in his current role as the country head air freight, Mr. Koul has taken Jeena to new heights. A vocal speaker, Mr. Koul will also be moderating today's show. Welcome to the show, sir. Before I hand over the baton of the show to Mr. Koul, I would like to inform our audiences to please drop in your questions regarding sustainable logistics in the comment section, as our esteemed experts will be taking your queries towards the end of the discussion. And audiences, your questions help us make this session more insightful and interactive. Now, without any further delays, Mr. Koul, I would like to hand over the reins to you and please commence this very insightful session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Kavi, for this wonderful introduction of the esteemed panelists. I welcome you all for this very unique subject. Normally, we used to talk about the challenges in doing air freight, ocean freight, digitization, documentation. But I see this is very, very different, but very, very talked about across the globe. And a lot of governments across the countries have put in certain regulations this sustainability, which normally we understand as three pillars: environmental, then it is economical, and then it is about the social. So most of the discussions today would be around the environmental and economic part of it. Social may come in between the answers or discussion points, but not focused to the extent of other two pillars. So before we go to the panelists for their expert views, I would like to share two informations. One, we had there was planning of Mr. Evo joining this show, but unfortunately he is keeping unwell today. And a big thank you to Mr. Sanjeev Kapoor, who agreed to be part of this show at a very, very short notice. Sanjeev, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
And another information I would like to share with everybody that Arne comes from Hermes, and Hermes and Jeena has been in exclusive partnership for so many decades. So we have been together serving a lot of esteemed customers across these trade lanes. And we are only going stronger and stronger with our relationship and finding a lot of...
Many more good years to come.
Yes, thank you, Arne. So with that, we go ahead with our first discussion point. Sanjeev, you are the new entrant to the panel, so we start with you.
Sure.
So Sanjeev, one kind of a broader framework of this sustainability, what we are talking about today. So there has been a lot of discussions talking throughout the world, a lot of forums, at highest level of this discussions. There are special kind of sessions happening on sustainability, and a lot of countries have been committing for taking firm actions about it within certain time periods, and certain set of goals have been put forward for most of the countries to do something about it. So have you seen any real action taken by the countries and businesses across the globe, which is helping in creating the sustainable supply chains? Why I have narrowed down finally it to supply chain, because today our topic actually is finally focusing on that. So over to you, Sanjeev.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And yes, what we can see is that efforts are on in the back end, but the changes are so slow that we do not feel the change and basically get used to the change. However, if the countries and organization hypothetically drops all efforts in one good fine day, the negative difference will be instantly visible. Just to sum up, yes, efforts are on, but we do not see a drastic change. And globally, if you see, airlines are only one part of the whole logistics supply chain, and all the stakeholders also need to jointly work together to these goals. I can talk about Lufthansa here. Lufthansa Cargo is definitely looking at, we are committed to CO2 neutrality, and our customers are aware and have to be more aware about the CO2 neutrality. Therefore, Lufthansa Cargo is offering solutions to create transparencies, like we have created a CO2 report. So like you can have an overview of all the emissions, and even we can go to a level of breakdown by modes of transport of all emission you have with the LCAG, like in the warehouse, what was the emission during the flight, what was the emission. And even in the booking channels, we give a possibility to have a look at the forecasted CO2 emission of a single shipment. So a lot of efforts are on. We are trying to reduce the CO2 footprint through sustainable aviation fuel, in this case a biofuel. offsetting emission with the offset certificates, like even though we can't reduce it so drastically, so we are investing in other environmental friendly projects like planting trees and all. So there are a lot of efforts. And we are offering our customer a product named Sustainable Choice. Every customer is able to book a Sustainable Choice as a product. You don't have to book a freighter. So it's basically, you can even book a Sustainable Choice with a single shipment. And that's a product which we have offered very lately. And yes, there is a lot of effort. Other than this, we have also invested, as far as Lufthansa Cargo is concerned, we have invested in our fleet, and we have changed to the most economical CO2 friendly aircraft 777 freighters. And I think most of the airlines are also doing it. And other than that, we have introduced shark skin technology, which is a 777 freighter will be equipped with a kind of an innovative foil which mimics shark skin and reduces the frictional resistance of the aircraft in the air, and thus reduces fuel consumption. So overall, the topic is definitely sustainability here, where we reduce the usage of fuel and usage of CO2 emission, going low. And we have also invested heavily into the lightweight containers, because so that we can have reduction in the weight, because these containers are used for baggage, these containers are used for cargo. So this definitely reduce fuel consumptions. And then we're using e-vehicles at our hub. And on top, I think everybody knows e-freight. So paperless e-freight, this really makes a lot of difference when it is e-freight, no documents. So I think, we have been talking, then there are tons and tons of paper we are saving, number one. And then this overall cost, if you see, because of these documents, that was also calculated, and it is a lot. So overall, yes, we are going towards it. And definitely we look forward to joint working towards this goal with all our stakeholders. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Very elaborative and very informative. I think a lot of things are happening. Like you said, they may be visible, they may not be visible. But as far as some concrete and tangible actions are being taken at all the levels, I'm sure if Lufthansa is doing all this, there must be a lot of other airlines also doing it. And maybe the shipping line side of it also, they must be taking certain concrete and tangible steps on this. So thank you for that, Sanjeev. So with that, we go to Mr. Anil. So we are now coming to India, and mostly from the perspective of the retail, because retail, when it comes to the retail supply chain, is kind of a backbone, absolute backbone, and has a lot of bearing on the success of the brand and success of the sales as well. So, Dr. Anil, how do you see the concept and implementation of a sustainable supply chain evolving in India? Who do you see are the major stakeholders in order to make a faster move towards creating sustainable logistics solution within India? Over to you, Dr. Anil.
Thank you, Prediman. Good afternoon, good morning to everyone from wherever you are actually listening to us. It's been an exciting session, actually. In fact, like Prediman said, this is absolutely a very, very contrast and a conflicting timeline, if you really ask me. Currently, we are all recovering from COVID. When I say recovering, both at a personal level, at a professional level, and not only the individuals or actually groups of people, the community, larger country, the entire world is recovering from COVID in more than one sense. So when we talk about retail, we are all coming back to the normal, the NTP, what I normally refer to as normal temperature pressure kind of a world. So when we are trying to kind of claw back into our normal, so-called normal life, or the new normal, whichever way you want to define that, we are talking about sustainability, because they don't go together at all, because they both are at two different ends, right? Because like Sanjeevji was saying, actually the sustainability is being discussed for the last several decades. Actually, how much have we been able to progress as a community, as a even as a human kind of community or whatever is in fact questionable, in fact. So if you really look at are you like, I mean, what is the predominant KRAs or KPIs of supply chain team, or logistics team, or even a retailer? service with the speed, because I'll come to that speed in the probably the latest, later part of the discussion. Serviceability, then of course the quality of the service, and then cost. What the entire community of supply chain, logistics fraternity is trying to do is they are trying to kind of come to terms with these three KPIs, because that is their survival actually KPIs. Why I say that is because COVID has definitely pushed already the resources scarcity to a different level. Now that thanks to the war in fact Europe, the oil prices have gone up, and then the hype is actually at the highest level right now. The light which was in green to amber to red, it has now come to kind of blood red or whatever. So everybody is worried about the existence survival of the business. And at this moment of time, we are talking about sustainability. Why? Because what is sustainability? Like what does it include? In fact, like what Sanjeev ji also was referring, or even Prediman referred actually, right? Global issues, such as climate change, water, resources utilization, deforestation, human rights, labor practices, corruption, all sorts of things we are discussing, right? I think if you really look at all these things, these are all in the community. Most of the community will see this as nice to have. I don't think people will actually see them as mandatory, but there are countries who are seeing this as mandatory. If you just turn on the ABC Australian news channel, you will see several people actually have lost lives in the recent floods. Just before the floods, there was actually a fire hazard happened, fire incidents happened across the country, including even in US actually. I mean, when you look at the raging fires or ravaging floods, in fact, and people losing life. I mean, I don't know how many of you have seen the TV or not. I mean, I saw a dog and a man actually just strolling around the house. Then I realized it's the top of the house. He's on the roof, and water is there almost at his footstep, which means his entire house actually has been submerged in water. This is in Queensland, parts of New South Wales, and then even started entering some parts of Victoria as well. So these floods have now become common. People are now referring, oh, we have never had this flood for the last 60 years, but then in the last 5 years it has come time, it has actually come thrice already. So these are all actually the probably the effects of global warming, or our sheer negligence towards actually the nature, and the way we have been abusing the resources, the way we have been actually ignoring the climate change or the water side of issues, or for deforestation and things like that, right? So all of this is culminating actually into a common man issue, but unfortunately it is not seen in front of our eyes. So therefore, I think what's happening in India right now, I think there is very little actually happening at a community level. However, people such as Landmark Group, or people retailers like us, we have been actively working on some of the things at least around us. For example, on the labor practices, we are very, very, very strict on the labor practices, ethical sourcing, and then child labor, actually banning child labor. So every year we go through the audits to make sure all our suppliers are certified actually with some of these things, right? Similarly, human rights violations and so on. I mean, people are being paid the right wages and so on. So these are all some of the things what we've been doing in the retail side of things. And similarly, the two dramatic things, at least I had seen as a community level in the last probably, just before the COVID maybe, one was usage of paper. Second one, usage of water. I think there is a highest level of awareness, at least in the community. Why I say that? At least the warehouses, actually, if I come to the warehousing side of things, people have now started going towards paperless warehousing. Nobody wants to use reams and reams and reams of paper. They all want to use RF, they want to use voice, they want to use all the auto tracking or the RF codes and so on. That is a huge development in the context of actually where retail has come in India in the last probably 2 decades, right? Similarly, the water usage has come, and water awareness has also come, wherein we are trying to recycle the water and then recycle actually some of the other resources, such as particularly in apparel retail. Now a lot of people talk about exchanging your old clothes. At least they are trying to put to use that old clothes. Instead of throwing it actually into the gutter, which will go and clog the waterways and things like that. So there are at least about some of these areas where India, the Indian, actually the companies and the community at large is kind of slowly waking up to the fact that one day, if we don't manage this climate change, if we don't actually stop the deforestation, if we don't stop, abusing some of these natural resources, this is probably going to happen. The last thing is, as I was actually also earlier discussing it during our prep sessions and all that, we have to literally question our own standing. I mean, COVID has literally taught us actually to work from home effectively, to work from, work actually self-supervised and then independently without having to depend on, we need to converge into a common place and work and all that. I mean, I would like to leave the audience with this question. Why can't the entire world move towards 3 days a week from office, or 4 days a week from office, or 30% of the workforce will always work from actually home? I mean, can we move to that situation wherein we can have huge savings around resources, travel, fuel, mental stress, and a whole variety of things, right? COVID has definitely taught us to kind of do a lot of introspection and kind of start recognizing that nature mother has to be looked after, which is exactly what we did in the last 2.5 years. Because now you see around the world, you can see a lot more greenery, lot more fresh air, lot more nicer things to look around, right? So that's what I would like to leave with. India is doing really a good job, but I think the pace can be picked up. That's what I would like to leave with. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dr. Anil. I think you covered a lot of important areas, right from the environment to the social part of it, the labor, child labor, ethical practices, right wages, right pay. So I'm very happy to note that a lot of retailers, including your company, they are very conscious about it. There are certain parameters around it. There some audits are happening. And I'm sure there must be a lot of thousands of or hundreds of or maybe lakhs of organizations in India who must have adopted these new kind of ways of doing business and saving the environment, creating value addition to the sustainability, which may not be as of now publicized or which may not be in the common domain to all of us to know what's happening. But by and large, there is a lot of consciousness about it and a lot of efforts are being put, what I understand from
one thing we are
what
good
I
at
heard from.
We are good at one thing, at least in India, Prediman. Sorry to budge in again. We are very, very good at recycling. We don't throw things. That has come in our culture, right? We don't just throw things out. We will just in case, if we can make use of it, that's always a thing. And then we also have second hand, third hand, fourth hand, 10th hand, 20th hand users available because of the larger population or larger community. I mean, even now you can see some of the CRT televisions, actually some parts of the country and so on. So we are really good at that as a community, which actually goes a big way, other than throwing it actually for a landfill. If you are using them, at least there is some console there, some consolation is there.
Exactly. That is in somewhere in the culture. So that comes natural environmental saving conservation. So that's absolutely valid point.
True.
Thank you. With that, we move to Arne. Arne is very patiently waiting for his answer to some discussion point. So Arne, I got some inputs from Sanjeev saying CO2 neutrality. So I immediately created one discussion point. So if we talk about freight forwarders, we have a large role in the whole supply chain, whole value chain. Our portion is larger, right from the transportation of it, warehousing of it, then the global mode of whether air freight, sea freight, then the destination deliveries, warehousing. So much bigger role in the whole value chain. So it comes to setting sustainability standards also on our shoulders. So some are even offering customers an in-depth analysis of their supply chains in terms of CO2 emissions and costs and help them to learn from it. So what's the secret to building a successful, sustainable model that goes hand in hand with reduced cost? So there was one point also from Anilji that we are struggling doing all this. So where is the time to invest more and increase our cost per unit or doing business? So how we can do this magic of taking care of sustainability and also do some cost rationalization? So Arne, over to you.
Prediman, first of all, thank you very much for this very interesting question. Actually, when I drafted my answer point, I really enjoyed doing this. So let me split this question basically, or the answer, into two parts. So first, I would like to introduce our sustainable model in Hermes that we already apply for the customer. And secondly, I will talk about the cost reduction aspect. So our understanding in Hermes, first of all, is that actually freight forwarders play a very, very important role in the logistics industry because they craft the door-to-door delivery and transportation for the customer. And for the moment, it was always based on cost and transit time efficiency. So that was basically always the key factors that were most relevant for the customer, most relevant for the freight forwarder. And this is what we based our decisions on. So now, since we are entering the new era of logistics, which is also the theme of this discussion, we freight forwarders, we have to add one additional element, which is the ecological efficiency. So what we feel in Hermes is that the industry is changing, and the consciousness about the environment is getting higher and higher every year. And actually, the freight forwarding industry has declared for the year 2050 to be completely climate neutral. And this is why Hermes joined an initiative 5 years ago, which is called the Clean Cargo Working Group. So in this Clean Cargo Working Group, basically there are several members. So there are forwarders, there are shippers, there are carriers, and all in all, they are responsible for 85% of the global container transport by sea. So this working group basically aims to make the container transport more sustainable. And in this working group, different methods are discussed, different processes are being unified. So to reach the ultimate goal to create uniform standards for the whole industry. And in Hermes, we have already started a while ago a project which is in cooperation with a company called Arctic. And basically, they support us in offering to the customer a CO2 compensation program. And with the help of Arctic, which is a gold standard certified supplier from the UK, we are able to realize this CO2 compensation along with the customer. They are supporting different projects such as reforestation in Uganda in order to create new oxygen for the planet. We also have projects in Taiwan for wind energy to create green renewable energy. And also there are other projects in Africa, for example, about efficient clean cookery in East Africa in order to reduce and prevent CO2 from being emitted. So basically, as a freight forwarder, what we offer to our customer is the whole visibility of their CO2 footprint. And we split this model into 3 different phases. So we call it a 3-phase model, which starts off with transparency. Second is control. And the third is the compensation, which is the indirect compensation. So basically, together with Arctic, we have crafted a formula that combines different elements. And in the end, the calculation can be done of the CO2 footprint. So it combines the shipping unit. So if we talk about ocean freight, for example, we take the TEU as one unit. Then we also take into account the distance. So for example, the sea journey in kilometers from India to Europe or from Far East into US. And we add also the CO2 emission factor, which is provided by Arctic. So in the end of the day, we can create the CO2 footprint and can make it visible for our customer. So we have a business intelligence tool that at all times, just with the press of a button, we can basically tell every customer what is their CO2 footprint for the transport that they are booking with us. And this is raising a very good level of transparency for the customer. So just to give you an example of a number, if you're shipping 60 TEU from Vietnam to Germany, you are emitting already on the main leg 4 kg of CO2. So this is a very specific number that the customer can work with. And basically, based on that calculation, the customer can do a compensation with us, with Arctic, which is really like helping the projects that we are supporting, and is adding a lot of value also for the environment. So we feel that is a very, very positive impact. And for the moment, we are doing this calculation based on a general sea journey. So we are not stopping here. We are also like moving further, and we are also looking into the future. So for the future, we further would like to improve, and we want to make it a live calculation. So for example, if there's a certain vessel which is taking a detour or is maybe having additional waiting time in front of a port, we would like to include these events also into the formula so that the numbers are getting even more specific and accurate, and the compensation can be also like much more clear. And now I also would like to say something about the cost reduction aspect. So I think what is very vital and important to know is that the investment into sustainability, it is not a short-term goal, or it cannot be like done on a short way. The most important ambition should be to save our planet, and only secondary can be the cost saving aspect basically here. So first of all, it is an investment into our future and the future of our children and all the generations which are like following. So in Hermes, basically what we did in the past is we have an annual survey which is called the Hermes Barometer. So basically we are questioning once a year a community of 200 logistics company decision makers in Germany, and we include questions of different areas. So for example, in the past year, we have also added a couple of questions in regards to sustainability. And we found out that 75% of these decision makers from logistic companies actually considered sustainability and criteria for sustainability as a prerequisite to participate in the market. So basically, even if before we start talking about cost reduction, it is the most basic thing to actually participate in the market and to generate revenue and profit. So what we learned from this is that the sustainable consciousness is absolutely mandatory for all companies. And if you're in a highly competitive market, it is absolutely a must to be sustainable conscious. Otherwise, you don't have access to this market anymore. So it is very critical and it is very vital to have that in the 21st century.
Thank you, Arne. Very, very valid, and I would say the first-hand experience inputs that some of us are still thinking, how can we implement it? And you guys have already done a lot around it. So as you rightly said, see, sustainability itself is not short-term. No? Sustainability is a very long-term word itself. So the approach to it or the investments in it cannot be short-term. It has to be a long-term affair. And second point is when we say about the costs, very important, valid point, Arne, what you made, that one fine day the process itself push out the people who are not adopting this sustainability measures, and everybody who is participating in any piece of business will have the level playing field. So everybody will have that cost component in the short run, and long run with the scale of the operations that will be neutralized, because you won't be investing every time same amount of money or resources to create sustainability. There would be always some kind of declining, and then this scalability and long-term effect in the investments as well. So, and this will be also appreciated by the end users at some, like you said, this is what all we are doing. We are all, businesses are also run by the human beings. So we are all doing this for our next generations and the generations to come. So everybody finally will and has to appreciate all these efforts. So I think cost thing will get diluted over the period of time. And the last but not least, Arne, now you have to take all this in the Indian operations also. So you have a new job on hand. Thank you. So Sanjeev, back to you. You have been patiently listening to other two speakers for a long time now. So we also, we say a lot of these CSR things happen. So sustainability in supply chain is also seen as the CSR activity in the organizations. So what efforts do you think an organization can or should make on this front?
Yeah, again, I can talk about what Lufthansa is doing. Of course, everybody who has to put in their efforts. And Lufthansa Group on a whole has a dedicated department which is called Help Alliance. So, and it's not new, as I've been saying, that everything is there since long. And under umbrella of Help Alliance, this covers all the CSR activities, and it's not country specific. So communities are there to support the local projects. Individually also we have done some we have divided into different communities, different areas, and these are aligned. These CSR activities are aligned with one or more of these 17 sustainable development goals, which have been given by United Nations. So it's not, we are following the UN, those 17 SDGs, and these goals are worldwide. And as mentioned by Arne and Dr. Anil, this is not short term; these are long term. So this is not going to end here. That okay, we'll do it for 6 months and then we stop it here. So we definitely want to interact jointly with our customers. And however, we also feel it's very important. Everybody has to put in an effort. And so then local activities and responsibilities, I can let you know a little about what we are doing in Asia Pacific. So we are running especially the education related projects. So it is presently there are 5 projects in India, and then there are 2 projects in Nepal, one in Sri Lanka, and one in Thailand and Vietnam. So basically this education also brings a lot of knowledge. People really, we are teaching them how to, don't waste water. And so all this thing, this comes with the education. It's not that basically you just learn everything. So, and there are definitely the fundraiser projects also happening for these education and gender equality, which is happening in India. So, last year we sold, we raised 1.4 million from the Lufthansa calendars, which we sold online. And there were 2,600 calendars which were sold approximately. And, this money was used for all this education, the local education we are giving to the children. Apart from that, we did online mask selling, which was under a project Sunshine in India. Again, it is education related. And we have been talking about offsetting. So, like doing the tree plantation, we were just discussing, Dr. Anil gave a very good example of floods and all. And this is all happening because, the deforestation and all. So we are going for tree plantation under Kalptru, that is an organization, again, an NGO. And thousands of fruit yielding plants were done for these farmers, which will help the local farmers. So commercially, this will also help them. So lately, we also did it in Gurgaon. There was in the morning, a lot of our colleagues went and, we did this exercise together. And, community cleaning, that was also very important. And, few colleagues during their weekends, they have been to the parks, local parks, collecting all this plastic from there. Our vice president, Asia Pacific, he's very aggressive, and they have been doing it on the beach at Singapore. And they have, so it's not only the community, but the individuals were very they were really happy to do all this, and they did wonderful job. One of my colleagues went with his children and collected near the park. He went into a park next door and collected all the plastic residuals lying here and there. So these things are also really matter, and it's very important that as an individual, we should come forward and do all these activities. Apart from that, we also had a project. There was a project called Codathon project to educate around 600. We were teaching about the coding. So there were 600 children who were, basically sponsored by Lufthansa for their software coding. So these were the few activities which we really performed, to take over this CSR projects out of Asia Pacific. And otherwise also, yes, it has to be done globally. So, but I can only talk presently for the Asia Pacific at the moment. Yes, but it is ongoing. This community from Lufthansa Group is there, and they are doing it various regions, Africa, like Arne mentioned about Uganda. So I think we are also doing the same things. So overall, the communities are there, whether it is airlines or it is freight forwarders. I think everybody is doing their best to do the CSR activities at their end. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev. So, what a great pleasure, no? When we do CSR, so we do something for the society at the large, and then when these whatever we do for it, they also relate to the sustainability, which is again a bigger thing for the society, for the future of the society, future of the generations. So combination of what we do today is helping in both the ways, short term and long term. Even if we are investing through CSR in educating our current, say, underprivileged or people who need that kind of a support, that's again a long term investment into the society. So such a wonderful thought, and I'm sure this is driven from the government itself by giving the CSR recognition in our businesses. And at the same level, there we all know even before the CSR was formally there, a lot of organizations have been doing these investments to the society. So very good again, Dr. Anil, like you said, we have all those special things in India, and this is also something great in India, inherent in Indian culture. And thank you, Sanjeev. With that, I go again to Dr. Anil. So, Anilji, very basic question from the retail supply chain point of view. So, do you think, from a retailer's point of view, that from the sustainability angle, is it better to manage the own supply chain by a retailer, or it is better to outsource it? Over to you, please.
Right. See, we firmly believe in Landmark Group actually that logistics is not our core expertise, our core competency area, right? We very clearly actually would like to encourage a partnership in this field from the competent actually service providers. So we have a series of LSPs, or logistics service providers, or third-party logistics service providers. Actually, we've been kind of jointly developing them as well all along the last at least 10-12 years that I've been involved with the company. We've been developing actually multiple capabilities actually across them. And I mean, you could be actually asking what difference are we making in a big way or a larger landscape and so on. If you really ask me, 2 or 3 things really hits me really big within Landmark Group. One of the things is we've been able to create a substantially larger amount of employment for rural ladies and rural women all around the country, be it Hoskote around Bangalore, Bhiwandi in Mumbai, Ghaziabad, or around NCR actually, or Sakrail, or even some of the places in Kolkata, or Medchal and other places actually in Telangana, in fact in Hyderabad, in fact. So we've been able to create employment actually for the women, in fact rural women. That is one. Secondly, we've been actively educating and then trying to improve their overall well-being, making sure that every employee, whether I've recruited actually directly or through an LSP or through another fourth subcontractor or a manpower service provider, everyone must have ESI, PF, all the compliances. We need to make sure that their financial security is also as dictated by the government of the law, as per the labor law. Plus, most importantly, the ESI part. Without the ESI card, we don't even let people inside. That's on some of the using the current rules and regulations and then trying to actually create a protective cover around them actually, right? But then what COVID did also was probably drove us to the next few levels. So we ended up actually from Landmark Group also has what's called as Life Trust, which actually the CSR money gets used even more before even the CSR money was being used. The Life Trust was actually doing a lot of these community activities actually. So we ended up distributing thousands and thousands of ration kits actually to not only the warehouse employees, but to our factory employees. I mean, they're all third party because we do a lot of contract manufacturing from the factory. So we ended up actually, helping thousands of factory people, to kind of sustain through the COVID, because when the first wave hit, it was like a, instant shutdown, right? Similarly, we also ended up extending a lot of helping hand to, help the COVID affected people, be it a financial assistant or medical assistant, or even some of the day-to-day food and then other living expenditure and things like that. I think COVID really brought a lot of us together. I'm not only talking about actually to the Landmark Group itself. The entire country and the community came together. Apart from Landmark Group, I've seen, thousands of people coming together to collect money, donate it, actually create the, ration kits and things like that. I mean, I think all of these things actually are trying to kind of say, oh, at the core, we also care about the community, we care about the country, we care about actually the civilization and all that. Why it is so important is because, I mean, look at it, like Sanjeev ji was talking about actually the planting and all that, right? There is actually, an organization in Bangalore South where I come from. The late, the member of parliament, Dr. Anant Kumar actually had started this, Adamya Chetana. They have been planting lakhs and lakhs of trees every Sunday. Every Sunday, lots of children, school children, actually, they are taken to different places actually around Bangalore or South Bangalore or even Karnataka and all that. They've been planting, lakhs of trees actually. I mean, initiatives like that will definitely kind of, increase the greenery, increase actually the overall, well-being of the environment and so on. I think we need probably similar kind of things, more and more. Coming back to the retail, if you really ask me, how many of us actually look at when we buy a white goods, actually, let's say we are going to buy a fridge, a 500 liter, 600 liter. I mean, the 5-star rating one is always twice as expensive as a 3-star rating, right? 3-star rating, right? Whether it's a washing machine or a fridge or a dryer, a dishwasher, any of that. I mean, why can't there be a legislation saying that you cannot sell any less than 5-star rating actually white goods at all, or equipment at all, even a mixer, a fan, or a geyser, any of that, right? Can we not actually as a community move towards that? Yes, we might pay 10, 20, 30% extra, but can we see that as an investment to our future or our own children, grandchildren, and so on? I guess this is where I think we as a community need to orient ourselves around retail or around our purchases. Why I'm saying is because, unfortunately, India, while we are all hailing the advent of e-commerce and the huge online business that has actually come up online in the last probably 5 to 10 years, it has also set some bad precedences. I mean, we actually want everything now, in next 2 hours, next 4 hours, next day delivery. What is going to happen? COVID has taught us, after all, if you didn't have that dress, nothing happened. You could have waited for the dress a week later, right? I mean, that unfair, unreasonable expectation has been set up by some of the e-commerce actually ventures and so on, which I think as a humankind we need to kind of sit back and kind of think and then say, okay, can I order this 2 days before if I wanted it tomorrow? Can I plan myself better so that there is less of a pressure on the resources? I mean, don't think XYZ as a company. I mean, I'm now trying to build 4-hour delivery capability, 8-hour delivery capability, next day delivery capability because of my own survival. Because I also work for a company, we need to actually exist. That's why I'm trying to do that. But as a customer, consumer, can we not actually think about, so can I order this actually for 3 days later, 4 days later? I mean, some of the even e-commerce retailers are asking, can we club this and give it to you? Can we actually send it to you on such and such a date rather than, immediate next day or whatever? Those are all some of the things I think what we should really start thinking, even as a retail consumer, not only retail company. I think ultimately I would like to, leave you with, if we can start using like how customer rating is there with 5-star, 4-star, 3 stars and all that. If we can actually start selling goods with the 5-star rating from the environmentally friendliness or sustainability point of view, can we have, instead of actually the customer service rating or the delivery capability rating or a cost rating, instead of that, can we say this is a 5-star rated sustainable product or sustainably made product? Actually, if we can kind of do that, and then if customers can start seeing how many green stars are there on this product from this retailer, is this retailer a 5-star rated retailer, or can we actually buy it from him even if it is 10 rupees extra? That is what we need to move as a community, as a company, as a country. Only then I think we'll be able to make a huge impact on. So that's what I would like to leave you with, Prediman.
Anil, super thoughts. 2-3 points which I could recognize. One is businesses are also part of the community, and businesses are in a position to empower others. So like you gave some examples of the ladies in the villages are being associated with your group, and empowerment is automatically happening. So next generation will be better off because they will have that money in hand, or they will have resources to put for the future of the next generations. And second point which you said, as a whole human race, we have to understand what I'm ordering and where from it is coming and what all through it is going and how it is reaching to me. So that awareness, I think the very objective and purpose of this kind of discussion is more about the awareness. I'm sure today these things together. How we create awareness, a last point, which is a kind of a final consumer in whole business. So that is, I think, the purpose of such kind of discussions, to create that kind of understanding among the communities. So last point which you said, why not to create an kind of a regulation? Why you are making those products who are not environmental friendly? That is not remove those products from the manufacturing and supply chain itself. We do only that which is sustainable. It will be a kind of a very bold decision, but then maybe it has to be taken. It has to.
We actually have done that. How many coal-driven trains do you see today? I mean, even the diesel trains, the diesel engines are going out of fashion. Now everything is getting electrified, right? Are we complaining? Absolutely not. I remember going to college, sitting on the footboard. I mean, the coal used to be on all our face, actually. In our school days, we used to go in the train and then coal used to be on our faces. How many of us actually even remember the coal trains now? It has only become in the hill stations now. So people will get used to it, I think.
I think some decisions I relate to this point, say electric vehicles, electric buses. No, that will again change something, and at a large scale. So things are happening, but like Sanjeev said, they are not very visible every day. They will take some time. See, because of the time constraints, I actually don't want to stop this discussion. It's going so good, so informative, but I have to, because of the time constraints. We have to go back to Karvi, and she will be having some questions maybe for the speakers. Here, I would like to thank Sanjeev, Anil, Arne for your wonderful inputs and great discussion. And thank you so much for that. Karvi, over to you.
Hello. So it was indeed a very insightful session by all the speakers, and what better proof than our audience was taking, such keen interest in this session. I was looking at the comment section, and every now and then I was seeing the audiences appreciating the points that the speakers put forth, and expressing their views and opinions. Uh, so now, without delaying it, I would like to take one or two questions from the audiences. So the first question I'm taking is from Ms. Neha Dua. Her question is directed towards Mr. Sanjeev. She asked, it would be interesting to know the price difference between a sustainable choice and a usual choice. So, Mr. Sanjeev, if you could take that question, please.
Yeah, thank you, Neha. And yes, indeed, it is there. There is a difference between the normal price and the sustainable aviation fuel price, where we are putting more because we have procured some. And just for everybody's information, we have a weekly freighter, which we are presently doing with DB Schenker to Shanghai. And this is all on a SAF, basis. And of course, this I can't really tell you exactly, but definitely there is a cost to it. And if you would like to get further information, you can get in touch with me with a specific information like what origin and destination we are looking at, and we can give you the information on that. So yes, definitely the cost is there. That's again a point which was a point of discussion when Dr. Anil was talking. Everything has a cost. Like when we are talking about 3-star and a 5-star, so there is a variation, and it's exactly what is there when we are using as SAF and a normal fuel. So, but yes, you can come back to me, and we can directly talk on this, and we can give you a specific cost to a specific routing.
But can I also tell you, there is a controversial actually or a conflicting view as well. I mean,
Okay.
sustainable actually fuel doesn't necessarily mean actually costlier, because you use ethanol, the cost of actually your fuel go down, right? Substantially it goes down. Similarly, if you want to use electric or even actually the bike and things like that, I mean, there are a lot of actually alternate options which are less costly as well or less expensive. We need to only explore them.
Yeah, that's the reason, Dr. Anil, presently we have only limited resources where we can look into. Because, when we look into the sustainability, so presently we could only procure, and that too, the overall fueling with what we do is, I think, around 6% we could really procure this fuel of the total fuel what we use. So, we can't just use it like that, and we have paid definitely a price higher than the normal fuel. So, somewhere or the other, everybody has to recover, but not that we are charging very high rate, but yes, there is a difference.
I'm looking forward actually a time where you will be able to fly through solar panels. Actually, that would be the ultimate one.
Sure. So yeah, that'll be great.
Ms. Nia, I'm sure for any further doubts, Mr. Sanjeev will be more than happy to take it personally. You can probably leave him a message or LinkedIn or contact him via any other means. Now, because Mr. Sanjeev talked about the 5-star and 3-star rating products, I am going to come to a question posted by Mr. Gaurav Dubey, and it is addressed to you, Anil sir. He asked, are there any means for 5-star rating products to come at an economical price, so that people tend to buy more 5-star products that are sustainable and can promote hand in hand?
There are absolutely number of I think products or number of product lines actually which can be made not only sustainable but also are cost effective. In fact, I would like to say it as, because right now there is a huge actually the exercise or in fact a drive going on in most of the Western countries. I mean, I was there in US for Black Friday, during Christmas Boxing Day sales in Australia and all that. I mean, there is a active encouragement for the consumers to come and give their denims. You go and give the denims back into one of the denim, actually the retailers, they will give you substantial discount and things like that. They are trying to recycle those old denims and then trying to do that. Similarly, one of the best things actually that's happening right now, Gaurav and then Kabi and your audience, is that younger generation are now going anti new things. They are saying, let us not use the resources. Can we use a second-hand furniture? Can we use a second-hand car? Can we use actually the second-hand or the used actually the items and so on? Now, they all actually come at a substantially lower price. While it is not a 5-star rated, actually the 5-star rated be the less expensive, but there are less expensive options on pretty much every product line. If you are able to explore and then kind of moderate our actually usage, you will find lot of actually options actually for you. And what better country than India as an example, because we never throw away our phones, right? We always have somebody to give it to, and he has somebody to give it to. So I mean, the way the extending the life cycle of a product also kind of has a positive effect on the overall resource consumption. So it is not necessarily a 5-star rated at a lesser price. Definitely affordable options are available, alternate options are available, rather than going for a brand new, even with a 3 rating or a 4 rating. Hope I've answered that.
Thank you, Anil sir. My next question is from Mr. Nilesh Jain. Extending his gratitude to the panel, he asked, in India, is the environment impact of supply chain in terms of carbon footprint accurate or transparent? Particularly since trucking, which is the largest part of supply chain expense, is so deeply intertwined with driver expenses. Hardly any driver is compensated purely in salary, and most of them get part of their salary through diesel money. I would like open the floor for this question. Any of the panelists who seems interested can take this.
Arne, how does it happen, Arne, in your part of the world?
Yeah, basically we. I think you mentioned a different liquid for running the cars, not electric, but you were mentioning the environmental friendly version. So basically, if you go to a gas station in Germany, you have different options, and we add, for example, uh, um, bio gasoline. Also, we mix it with the regular fossil gasoline, basically. So you always have an option. Drivers have to be like a little bit more careful in that sense, because if they have an old car, you cannot use that kind of gasoline for old cars, so it can be only used for new cars. But this is something for private cars, and this is something also for big trucks being used, which reduces the consumption basically of fossil fuel. So these are options which are being explored at the moment. But I would say they are not there to the full extent yet. But generally, I think many countries and many companies also see the future in the electric cars. So last year, for example, I did a private trip to Norway, and I can definitely say that in Norway, the development of electric cars is already much more ahead than even in Germany. So in I would say in Norway, probably every second car is an electric car. It's not only Tesla, it's numerous brands. It is Hyundai, it is Kia, it is so many of them, and that is very interesting to see, because it also gives an idea on how maybe Germany will look in a couple of years, or many other countries in the world in the future will look like. So that is a development which is taking place, and I think that is a very positive trend taking place.
Yeah, I guess that E10 or ethanol 10 is very, very commonly used, kind of a mix of fuel, actually, not only in North America or parts of Europe, even in Australia, New Zealand, and all that. Very true. But then particularly to the question where, can the drivers be kind of, compensated further and all that? I guess, I mean, in India, there is already a prudence actually from the driver community, or actually the trucking community. They don't that easily waste the fuel. I mean, for a simple example is, if there is a slope, they even turn off the engine and kind of going neutral and things like that, right? I mean, there are some inherent and very, very kind of a crude way of actually kind of saving fuel, or saving some other, or getting more kilometers for actually the same 1 liter of actually fuel and so on. Because the popular saying is kitna deta hai, right? That's a popular question actually in Indian context, right? So which means how many miles per kilometer, or how many miles per gallon, or how many kilometers per liter. That's a kind of a discussion always people have. But then drivers, are they paid right now any incentive actually kind of to be reducing the footprint, to be kind of reducing the carbon emissions and all that? Absolutely not there. I don't think that awareness itself is not there. However, having said that, do we have that awareness within the logistics community? Yes, definitely it is there. How? We have started using now gas driven forklifts. We have started using now electric actually forklifts, rather than the diesel, or actually the fuel version of it, right? So that understanding is coming very clearly, because even though the price parity is almost 1:2, you can actually hire fuel driven one probably for half the price. Companies are definitely making investment into the electric ones, into the probably the gas ones, readily, because they are aware of actually reducing the carbon footprint and so on. So there is definitely some awareness is there. But on the trucking community, I think we need a revolution to happen from some of the big trucking guys, like how it has happened. I mean, I don't know, companies like Rivigo, they now have started using transport, the truckers only 250 kilometers a day. After the 250 kilometers a day, he has he has a resting point. The truck is taken by another driver. This driver comes back home, which means he is a lot more freer, a lot more stress free, so that he can focus on the road, he can focus on the truck, so that there are probably the driving is smoother, and then the fuel efficiency is there, and the truck efficiency is also there. So some of those initiatives are there. But on the carbon footprint itself, I think we need a revolution actually waiting to happen.
Thank you. Well spoken, Mr. Arne and Mr. Anil. So I can see that our audiences they're dropping in their opinions, but not a lot of questions coming in. So I would like to end the Q&A session right here, but not before I ask Mr. Koul to just add to the initiatives taken by Jeena, because I can see Mr. Mehria Patel dropped in a comment saying that we at Jeena always have worked on sustenance and paperless initiatives. So, Mr. Koul, if you could just add to any more such initiatives taken by Jeena or speak about that.
Yeah, a lot of initiatives. To be honest, when I joined Gina, I think 25 years ago, so when there was no discussion of this sustainability, carbon footprint, and all, so there was a kind of a unwritten rule that 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock lunchtime there would be no lights on, no ACs on, no fans on. This was somewhere the unwritten consciousness throughout, and it was throughout the country. And then after that, technology came in, and a lot of these new initiatives, new awareness programs. And today, I must tell you, we have zero paper. We are not, we only get papers maybe from our customers or from somewhere. We don't print papers. Our this technology driven processes are so robust that even a customer can download our BL from the system. He has to make whatever payments and all. He can take his BL from the system, which is a negotiable document. And normally people keep it to the chest that it is a negotiable document, but our customers have access to the portal and they can take it away. We have, like Sanjeev said, e-freight, and we have been with e-freight so many years with our overseas partners. Arne will not receive any bunch of papers from Jeena for any air freight or sea freight shipment. Everything is data exchange. Same our airline partners or the custodians. And now that government has also come up with lot of easing in the paper regulatory processes, and that also goes through the system itself. So a lot of things are there which technology has helped us, and the company kind of that awareness and the thoughts of contributing to the society. And I would also like to say, like Dr. Anil and Sanjeev were saying about uh, contributing to the society, this has been also happening for decades in Jeena. There are so many initiatives, whether it is midday meals, it is the medical facilities, there are eye camps being organized by the Jeena Trust. So many things happening around the education to the people who need it. So, but same thing what we were saying, no, there are so many things happening, but we don't make buzz around it in India. So maybe time has come. We have to showcase, because that will encourage lot of other organizations, and who are already doing it, they will also feel, yes, we are on the right direction. We are not odd one out. So thank you, Karvi, for asking that.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure, Mr. Koul. Thank you for reflecting upon that. So, with that, we have come to an end of this very, very interesting and insightful session. Sustainability should indeed be the keyword for the industry as we all slowly and certainly are stepping foot into the post pandemic world. And planning, strategizing, and implementing a master plan for the feasible and sustainable supply chain will be a step in the right direction. The retail supply chain leaders also need to begin to be really listening to the consumers environmental concerns as well, about how they want their orders to be delivered, and then take the steps and demonstrate that accordingly. So the key pointers and takeaways from today's discussion, I'm sure, will prove to be beneficial to a lot of our viewers watching us today. And thank you to all the speakers for taking out time from their busy schedules, especially now that we are actually working and going to the office. I'm sure you guys had really busy schedules. So thank you so much for taking out your time, Mr. Paul. Thank you for moderating this session to perfection. Each and every point was highlighted so perfectly by the speakers in a very layman language as well, which I think even the people who were not from the industry could, get a hold at. So thank you for that, and thank you, Jeena and company, for their support and our audiences. It was a very, very interactive session. Your questions did make this even more insightful. And thank you for your keen interest. I hope you all have an amazing evening. Thank you, everyone, for joining in.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Karvi and Logistic
Thank you.
Insider
Thank
team.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anil. Thank you, Arne.
Have a nice
Thank you.
weekend.
Bye, Sanjeev. Bye, Arne.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Anil ji.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.